I wasn't looking for anything. That's the part that still eats at me. I wasn't digging, wasn't paranoid. There was no suspicion, no whisper of doubt echoing in my head. It all started with a mail envelope. One of those plain, unbranded hotel folders you don't really think twice about until you open it. It showed up on a Monday. No return address, nothing personal, just tucked between grocery coupons and utility bills. I'd grabbed the mail on my way in, tossed the pile on the kitchen counter like I always do, and didn't look at it again until after dinner. Molly was still at work. Or at least, that's where she said she was, at a late-night collaboration session with her team at some rented co-working loft in the Pearl District. Her words, not mine. Inside the envelope were 2 hotel room keycards. Slim, black, plastic cards with a gold stamped are on one side, Riverfront Hotel, the kind of boutique spot downtown with skyline views, plush robes, overpriced cocktails, and soft jazz humming through the lobby at all hours. It wasn't the hotel that got me, though. It was the receipt. There were 2. One was for dinner for 2 at their rooftop restaurant, steak, wine, cheesecake, tip. The second was for breakfast the next morning, also for 2. Coffee, pastries, eggs Benedict. The total was handwritten, signed at the bottom. Same last name I knew like the back of my hand. Clark. And the dates? March 22nd and 23rd. The same 2 nights Molly said she'd been staying late, working on some emergency sprint with her product team. She even sent me a selfie from the co-working space. A blurry photo of her laptop, a half-eaten granola bar beside it, and a caption that said, K*me, we're gonna be here all night again. I remember replying, don't burn out. I'll warm up dinner. And getting back a heart emoji and nothing else. So I stared at those receipts and those keycards for a long time. Tried to logic my way through it. Maybe she booked it for a friend? Maybe someone used her name by accident? It wasn't impossible. Weird things happen with shared apps. Our accounts are connected on a few booking platforms because we used to split travel for weekend getaways. So I told myself I'd ask. Just casually. I wasn't ready to accuse her of anything. Not then. Not ever, if I'm being honest. When she got home that night, sometime after 11, I brought it up as gently as I could. Hey, a weird envelope came in the mail, I said, handing it to her without making it sound like an interrogation. I figured maybe it was yours? She flipped it open, glanced at the contents, and blinked. Just once. Her face didn't change much. Just that tiny pause. Like a buffering wheel spinning for a second too long before everything resumed. Oh, that's weird, she said with a little laugh. Ha, maybe it's from when we tried booking a conference room a few weeks ago? You remember that? Steph had trouble with her login, so I used my name on the app. She picked up the keycards, gave them a cursory look, and then casually tossed them back on the table. Like they meant nothing. Or maybe it's just a mail mix-up. Our building's got like 5 Clarks in it, and our mailbox is always screwing up. Then she changed the subject. Started talking about some UX fail on an app she'd seen that day. I let it go, even joked along. But something about the way she dropped the topic, it wasn't just dismissive. It was rehearsed. Like she knew it was coming and already had a response queued up. The next morning, I found the scarf. I was putting on my shoes near the hallway mirror when I saw it draped over the coat hook. I'd never seen it before. It was silk, expensive looking, with a dark pattern and red trim. Not Molly's style. Not even close. She hates scarves unless they're chunky wool and knitted by someone's grandma. And this one, it reeked of cologne. Not perfume, cologne. The scent hit me immediately. It wasn't the subtle kind you forget about 2 minutes later. It was bold. Clean, sharp, expensive. And distinctly not mine. I picked it up, held it at arm's length, and called out, "Hey, did you get a new scarf or something?" Molly walked into the hall, her toothbrush still in her mouth. She glanced at it, shrugged, and mumbled through foam. That? Oh, Steph probably left it. Or Beck. They came over last week for wine. Remember? She didn't even take a second look. Just turned back toward the bathroom, her voice echoing, "You're such a detective lately." I stared at the scarf a little longer. The The scent didn't fade. My stomach twisted in a way I hadn't felt in years. But again, I said nothing. Later that night, when she was asleep, I opened the hotel app on her iPad. It was still logged in to her account, same as always. We used to book weekend trips together that way. I didn't even need to snoop. It was right there in the recent history. Riverfront Hotel. Reservation under Molly Clark. March 22nd to 23rd. Booked for 2 guests. No mention of work. No shared room under her coworkers' names. Just hers. I stared at the screen until the battery icon turned red. The next day, I brought it up again, this time less casually. That hotel booking, it's under your name. I checked. It wasn't Steph or Beck. Molly froze for a beat before smiling. Too smoothly. Oh, babe, that was weeks ago. You're really still thinking about that? She leaned against the counter, arms folded like she was humoring me. We use that platform at work sometimes. Someone probably used my name. We booked like 4 rooms that week for some out-of-town meetings. It's not a big deal. I didn't reply right away, just nodded slowly. She walked over, slid her arms around my waist, kissed me on the cheek, and said, "You worry too much." And then, like clockwork, she brought up dinner plans. Suggested we go out for ramen that weekend. It was a pattern: deflect, distract, reset. And maybe it would have worked if not for the timing. Because once you see the lie, it doesn't fade. It stays. It lingers. It rewrites the way you remember things. I went to work the next day, sat at my desk, and couldn't focus. I kept thinking about that hotel, that scent on the scarf, the half-eaten granola bar selfie. I remembered now that her laptop screen in that photo had the Riverfront logo in the browser tab. I'd missed it before, but it was there, just barely, mocking me, and still I told myself I could be wrong. That maybe all of this was just a coincidence stacked on another coincidence. That's what we do when we love someone, right? We rewrite reality just to keep the version that feels safe. But something had changed. Not in her answers. In me. I couldn't unsee it anymore. It wasn't one big moment after that. No dramatic reveal, no slam the door kind of fight. It was slower, colder, like a room gradually losing heat. Barely noticeable at first, until you realize you're shivering and can't remember when it started. I tried to move on after the hotel thing. Honestly, I did. I went back to work, kept up with my running routine, called my brother more often. But even as I went through the motions, little things started poking holes in the narrative I was trying so hard to hold together. It started with the ring. It was just a simple silver band, not an engagement ring or anything like that. More symbolic than flashy. Molly bought it during a trip to the coast 3 years ago. Said it grounded her. Reminded her of where we started. She used to wear it all the time, always on her right index finger, like a habit she never broke. One morning, I noticed it was gone. I didn't say anything. I thought maybe she left it on the nightstand or in her bag. But by the 4th day, it still hadn't reappeared. I asked her about it casually while we were brushing our teeth. "Hey, haven't seen that silver ring in a while. You stopped wearing it?" She didn't even look up, just shrugged and said, "Oh yeah, I think it fell behind the dresser or something. I'll find it later." Except she didn't look. Not once. I checked behind the dresser myself the next morning. Nothing. Then came the late-night calls. At first, I didn't think anything of them. She'd get up from the couch, phone buzzing, and walk into the other room to answer. Normal enough. But then it became a pattern, always after 10 p.m. Always answered with a hushed voice and a locked door. I could hear the faint murmur of her talking, pacing, laughing quietly like she didn't want to be overheard. When I'd ask who it was, she'd wave it off. "Work call. Steve's team keeps messing up the prototype, and I'm the only one who understands the original flow." She'd toss in some jargon I didn't follow. Behavioral triggers, modal logic, back-end delays. And I'd nod along like I believed it, like I didn't notice how she started putting her phone face down every time she left the room. And the laptop, that's the one that really got to me. Molly used to work with her laptop open in the living room. Half the time I'd pass by and catch her scrolling through Pinterest boards or watching videos of people organizing kitchen drawers. But now, The moment I entered the room, she'd close it. Not pause. Not minimize. Just close. Every time. One night, I asked her what she was working on. She said, "Wireframes for the new client," and turned the laptop so I couldn't see the screen. Then she smiled. "It's boring stuff, trust me." I didn't press her. But I started to notice how often the word boring came up when she didn't want to explain something. Her phone got a new password not long after that. It used to be the same one we both used for our streaming apps, our anniversary date 0315. I didn't even realize she'd changed it until I tried to play music from her phone and the lock screen wouldn't budge. I asked her, and she laughed and said, "Oh, right, IT told us to change it. Company-wide security update." That sounded legit. Until I saw her enter the code one day with one hand under the table, her eyes flicking up like she thought I was watching. I wasn't, but now I was. It was around this time I noticed the taxi receipts. We had a shared email account for ride receipts. It was tied to our joint budget app. She rarely took rides anywhere without me, so it stood out when a couple of 11:45 p.m. trips to the East Waterfront popped up. Same pickup spot every time, our place. Drop off? Near that hotel. The same one from before. I asked her why she was going to the waterfront so late, and she blinked like I was speaking another language. "Oh, I was meeting Beck for a late walk," she said. "She's been dealing with her whole breakup spiral and just wanted to vent." I nodded. But the timestamp on the ride back was over 2 hours later. A 2-hour walk. At midnight. In 38-degree weather. That one didn't sit right. And then there was the gym. Molly signed up for a fancy new gym in June. Some boutique thing with eucalyptus towels and keyless lockers. She was pumped about it for like a week. Went 4 times, posted a couple stories about sweating the stress out. And then, nothing. I still saw the membership charge on the card. Still saw her leave in leggings and runners and talk about spin class like it was a religion. But I also noticed her sports bag didn't move from the closet. I checked once when she wasn't home. It was still packed like the day she bought it. Tags on the resistance bands. Cap still sealed on the electrolyte water bottle. And the smell. Call me crazy, but if you're really sweating through an hour-long class, your shoes should not smell like cedar inserts from the box. Around that same time, I started seeing little spikes in her affection. Out of nowhere, she'd drop a compliment. Touch my face while I was shaving. Leave a note in my lunch bag that said, "You're still the most interesting person I've ever met." One night she came home with a pair of wireless earbuds I'd been eyeing online for months. No birthday, no reason, just handed them to me with a grin. "I saw them and thought of you," she said. I checked the card we usually used for joint purchases. No charge. Checked the others too. Still nothing. I even checked the gift tracker we use for birthdays and holidays. No trace. I wanted to feel grateful. I was grateful. But also, I was suspicious. Then came the photos. Not mine, hers. Or rather, her friends. I started scrolling through Steph's and Beck's feeds just to see if I was overthinking things. They'd tag Molly sometimes when they went out. I figured if she was with them, I'd see her. If not, maybe I really was imagining things. But there were 3 separate nights where Molly claimed to be out with the girls, and not one photo included her. The others were there. Clinking glasses at bars I'd never heard of. Smiling at dinner tables full of appetizers and cocktails. But no Molly. Not even in the background. The final straw? Lipstick. A bright red tube, sitting quietly on the passenger side floor mat of my car. I hadn't driven anywhere with Molly in over a week, and when I picked it up, I recognized the brand. One she used to wear years ago. Inferno, I think it was called, but she stopped wearing red altogether. Said it made her teeth look yellow and didn't fit her palette shift. I left it on the console. She saw it the next day and paused. "Is this mine?" she asked. I shrugged. "You tell me." She looked at it again, then laughed a little too loud. "I haven't worn this shade since college. No idea where it came from. Maybe Beck borrowed my keys or something." She moved on fast. Changed the topic. Again. But the lipstick sat in my glove box like a dare. By now, I was keeping mental tabs on everything. And not in some obsessive, paranoid way, at least that's what I told myself. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't tailing her. I was just watching, waiting for it all to add up or fall apart. Each piece on its own could be innocent. Together, though, together, it felt like a truth I wasn't ready to face. But I couldn't ignore it anymore. Not when the story she was telling me didn't match the one I was watching unfold in real time. New Year's Eve used to mean something to me. Not in the flashy, midnight kiss, champagne toast kind of way, but more like a quiet checkpoint. A moment Molly and I would set aside for ourselves. Our thing was to stay in, make pad thai from scratch, and watch the fireworks through the big living room window that faced west. We'd toast with cheap Prosecco, talk about the highs and lows of the year, and make lists of things we wanted to try in the next one. It was simple. Ours. This time, she said she had other plans. A girls' night, she told me, with a breezy tone that didn't quite fit her words. Beck's organizing something in Lake Oswego. Low-key wine, board games, that kind of thing. I blinked. On New Year's? She rolled her eyes, like I was being dramatic. You hate parties, remember? You said you wanted a quiet night. This is just a chance for me to decompress. It's been a year. That was true. I had said that, but something in the way she said decompress felt practiced, like she'd rehearsed it in her head before saying it aloud. Still, I nodded, told her to have fun, didn't push. She left around 6 p.m., wearing a black turtleneck, long coat, and heels that didn't scream game night. Her hair was done the way she used to wear it when we went to those rooftop date spots, the soft waves she knew I liked. She sprayed something floral behind her ears before leaving. Said it was for the photos Beck would definitely force them to take. I stayed home like I said I would. Ordered Chinese, opened a beer, sat on the couch with the TV on low volume. But I couldn't relax. Not really. Not with the way she left. Not with the pit in my stomach. At around 10:30 p.m., I gave in. I opened Find My iPhone. It wasn't something I did often. We had it set up for emergencies. A leftover habit from a time she once lost her phone on a hike. I clicked her name. There it was. Riverfront Hotel. Downtown. Not Lake Oswego. Not Beck's. The same hotel. I stared at the screen for a full minute, heart pounding, every rational part of me trying to explain it away. Maybe Beck's game night was at a suite. Maybe it was a surprise. Maybe God, maybe anything else. But I knew better. I threw on my jacket, grabbed my keys, and left without fully knowing what I planned to do. My hands were shaking as I drove, gripping the steering wheel like it might steady me. The city was alive. Lights blinking, music spilling from bars, strangers shouting countdowns early, already tipsy. The hotel sat like a glowing lantern near the riverfront, elegant and cold at the same time. I parked a block away, slipped into the lobby, and stood by a column near the far side. My pulse was in my ears. Everything felt distant, like I was watching someone else live my life. I pulled up her location again, still in the hotel. Top floor, rooftop. I rode the elevator partway, stopped on the restaurant level instead of going all the way up. I didn't want her to see me. Not yet. I didn't even know what I was hoping to catch. A glimpse? A conversation? Proof? But I got more than that. At 11:59 p.m., as the crowd gathered on the rooftop terrace to watch the city's midnight show, I stepped close enough to the glass balcony wall to see them. Molly. And him. He was tall, sharp-looking, dressed in a black coat and scarf. Same guy I'd seen once, weeks ago, in a photo from the hotel's app when I was checking the guest history. At the time, I'd told myself he was probably a client, or a colleague, or no one. But now, she was standing in front of him, her hands in his, leaning forward. The countdown began around them. I stood frozen, half concealed behind a stone column. I couldn't hear them, but I didn't need to. 5, 4, 3. He smiled at her. 2. She smiled back. 1. Midnight. And then she kissed him. Not a quick peck. Not an accidental brush. She kissed him like she knew him. Like she missed him. Her hands reached up to his face, pulling him closer. Her eyes closed like she was safe. Fireworks erupted behind them. And me? I didn't move. I didn't shout. I didn't storm the terrace. I didn't run or cry or break anything. I just stood there, heart shattering in slow motion, watching the woman I loved welcome the new year in someone else's arms. That was it. That was the final point. When the kiss ended, she leaned her head against his chest like she belonged there. He wrapped his arm around her waist. They didn't speak, at least not that I could tell. They just watched the fireworks, shoulder to shoulder, as if this was routine, as if this was home. I pulled back into the hallway and rode the elevator down in silence. The lobby was nearly empty. A few staff, a couple returning from the bar, a man arguing with the concierge about valet delays. I walked over to the reception desk and asked to speak with whoever had managed Molly Clark's check-in that evening. They hesitated until I explained I was her partner, that I just needed to leave something for her. No confrontation, no drama, just something she needed to see. I took a small hotel gift box from the counter, the kind they use for spa gift cards, and placed inside it the pear ring she hadn't worn in weeks, the one I'd kept in my drawer, and the printed hotel receipts I'd found earlier that month. I wrote nothing, no note, no signature, just sealed it and handed it over to the receptionist. "Please give this to Molly Clark when she comes down," I said. Then I stepped back behind one of the large lobby columns, just out of view, not hiding, just watching. I don't even know why. A few minutes later, the elevator dinged. There they were, Molly and the man. She was laughing at something he said. Her hand brushed his arm. They stepped up to the bar, ordered drinks, unaware of the box waiting at the front desk. The receptionist flagged her down. I couldn't hear what was said, but I saw the way her expression changed when the box was handed over. Curiosity at first, then confusion. She opened the lid slowly, glanced inside, saw the ring, saw the receipts, and then she froze. Her eyes scanned the lobby. Her body stiffened. And then she saw me, just for a second. Our eyes met. Hers widened, mouth slightly open, like a gasp she couldn't let out. She took a step forward, but I didn't wait. I turned and walked out. No confrontation, no explanation, no begging or yelling or demanding answers. I gave her what she had taken from me, silence. Because sometimes the loudest thing you can say is nothing at all. I didn't remember walking out of the hotel. I must have passed people. Maybe someone spoke to me. Maybe the doorman said, "Happy New Year." Couldn't tell you. The world felt muffled, like I'd been plunged underwater. Every sound distant, warped, far away from where I actually stood. What I do remember is the air. Cold, sharp, January air that hit my face like a slap and made my eyes sting. I kept walking, no destination in mind, just trying to move. I thought it might help, the movement, but it didn't. I circled the block, crossed the street, found myself standing under the glow of the hotel's curved entrance again. The revolving door spun gently as party guests filtered in and out, their voices rising and falling like waves I wasn't part of. I stayed in the shadows for a few minutes, behind a row of decorative shrubs and a marble pillar, unsure why I hadn't left entirely. I should have, but I wasn't done. Not out of revenge, not even anger, something quieter, something heavier. I didn't want to confront Molly. I didn't want a scene, or to yell, or even to demand answers. Because truthfully, I'd already received the only answer I needed. I just wanted to finish it on my terms, to draw the line in the sand myself. So I walked back inside. The same receptionist was still at the desk. She looked up, confused. I didn't say anything. I just nodded, calm and quiet, as if I was there for something routine. Then I moved to the far end of the lobby, past the bar, past the piano player, past the couple arguing over a hotel charge, and stopped behind a wide, granite column with a clear line of sight to the elevators. From there I waited. Maybe 10 minutes passed, and then they came down. I saw them before they saw anything else. The elevator doors parted and out stepped Molly and the man. Her coat was draped over her shoulders now, her hair slightly wind-blown from the rooftop. She looked like someone returning from a night of warmth, of celebration. Her expression was light until it wasn't. They walked toward the bar again, his hand resting lightly on the small of her back. She didn't pull away. She tilted her head toward him as he said something, and they both laughed. Then the bartender stepped forward with a curious look, holding out the small white box I had left earlier. "This was dropped off for you," I heard him say. I saw it click before she even opened it. The moment her fingers touched the box, her body stiffened, her mouth parted, her smile disappeared, replaced by the slow, creeping realization of what this was. She opened it carefully, her hands shaking just slightly. Inside, she saw the ring. My ring. The one she stopped wearing 2 months ago and never explained why. And next to it, the folded receipts from the Riverfront Hotel, both sets. Dinner and breakfast. My quiet proof. My record of the lie. Her eyes snapped up. She looked around the bar like she was scanning a crowd for a face she wasn't sure she wanted to find. Then she saw me, just barely half-shielded behind the column. She froze. We locked eyes. And for a moment, time did nothing. No one moved. No one spoke. The noise of the bar kept going. But it blurred. Her lips parted as if to speak, but no words came out. I saw something flicker in her face. Shock, panic, guilt, or maybe just surprise that I hadn't confronted her sooner. Her companion turned toward her, confused by her sudden silence, and then followed her gaze to where I stood. I watched him study me with curiosity, maybe concern, like he couldn't place who I was, like he wasn't entirely sure whether I was a stranger or a threat. But I didn't step forward. I didn't make a sound. I just nodded once. Not an accusation. Not even a goodbye. More like a punctuation mark. Period at the end of a sentence I didn't get to write, but would damn well finish. Then I turned. And I left. I didn't look back to see her reaction. I didn't want to see her mouth form my name or watch her stumble toward me with weak excuses or practiced apologies. I didn't want to hear anything she had to say. Because the moment you see someone choose someone else, really choose them, it doesn't matter why. It just matters that they did. Outside, the city was still lit with fireworks echoing in the distance. Couples stood on corners kissing, wrapped in scarves, drunk on cheap champagne and the promise of new beginnings. But I walked past them all like a ghost, like someone moving through a version of Portland that no longer belonged to him. I didn't drive straight home. I didn't want to sit in our apartment, surrounded by shared furniture and coffee mugs with inside jokes. I didn't want to be in a space where her coat still hung by the door and her scent lingered on the pillow. Instead, I drove across the river and parked in the empty lot near the waterfront trail, the place we used to walk before things got busy, before everything became excuses. I sat there for a long time, engine off, keys still in the ignition, watching the reflection of fireworks shimmer across the water like they didn't care what kind of night it was. I thought about how we got here. Not just the hotel. Not just the kiss. But the 1,000 little moments that led us to this one. The days she stopped asking me to walk her to the train. The nights she didn't reach for me in bed. The fake smiles. The vague explanations. The invisible curtain she drew tighter with every, "You're overthinking it." I wasn't. I wasn't overthinking. I was seeing. And now I was done pretending otherwise. When I finally made it home, I didn't turn the lights on. I just walked through the apartment with quiet precision, room by room, taking mental inventory of what was mine and what I could let go of. On the nightstand sat a photo of us from our trip to Seattle 2 years ago. Her arms around my shoulders, my hand holding hers, the skyline blurred in the background. We looked happy. Probably were. But now even that felt borrowed. Like it belonged to two people who no longer existed. I took the photo out of the frame and slid it into the drawer. I didn't tear it. I didn't throw it out. I just put it away. Because I wasn't going to pretend anymore. Not even to myself. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a minute. It wasn't one of those dramatic, tossing and turning nights either. No pacing the floor. No breaking down. I just lay in bed with my eyes open, staring at the ceiling, mind sharp and empty at the same time. I wasn't angry, not in the way people expect. I didn't want revenge or some grand confrontation. I didn't want to hear her justify it, or explain the timeline, or tell me how it just happened. I wasn't interested in her regret. I wanted clarity. I wanted control back. So in the morning, While the city was still wiping the confetti off its sidewalks, I got to work. The first thing I did was freeze our joint checking account. Not the one with rent and groceries, those were small, manageable. I'm talking about the travel fund, the vacation savings, the someday account we'd been building together for nearly 4 years. The one we swore we wouldn't touch unless it was for something big. A house, a wedding, something permanent. I logged in, clicked through the menus, and transferred every cent into a new account under my name alone. No warning, no discussion. Then I disabled her access to our shared budgeting app, changed the password, delinked her card from the travel rewards, closed the automatic drafts for our joint Spotify and streaming services. All the little conveniences we'd stitched together like a shared skin, gone. Next, I moved on to the apartment. We didn't own it, just rented a 2-bedroom on the northeast side. But the lease was in both our names. I called the property manager, someone I knew well enough to text during maintenance issues, and explained the situation in simple, professional terms. "There's been a breakdown," I said. "I'll be continuing the lease on my own. Please begin the process to remove Molly Clark from the agreement." He paused. "Will she be notified?" "I'll handle it," I said. "I just need the paperwork." He agreed. After that, I changed the passcodes to everything: Wi-Fi, Netflix, Amazon, the Nest thermostat she liked to adjust from her phone. It wasn't about punishment. It was about boundaries. I wasn't going to give her continued access to a life she'd already chosen to step out of. By 10 a.m., I'd packed her things into boxes. Not in a rage, not with messy tears or smashed dishes. Just methodically, piece by piece. Her clothes, her books, the mug with the chipped handle she always used, her curling iron, her favorite blanket. I kept my hands steady the whole time. I didn't leave passive-aggressive notes. I didn't spray her perfume or linger over any of it. I packed. I labeled. I moved on. I set everything in the corner of the guest room, stacked and sealed. I didn't know when she'd come back, or if she'd try to spin this into something she could work through. But I wanted her to know. The line had been drawn. Then came the hard part. The man. The one from the rooftop. I didn't know his name at first, but I had a face, a hotel record, and a photo I'd quietly taken through the glass. Him and Molly, mid-kiss, fireworks bursting behind them. I opened my laptop and began searching. It didn't take long. Molly had mentioned him once months ago in passing. "Operations director," she'd said. "Joined the agency from San Francisco. Very polished. Very New York energy." At the time, I hadn't thought anything of it. But now, every casual mention came rushing back. I found his profile on the agency's website. I cross-checked it with LinkedIn. Same guy. His name was Elijah Hart. I remembered the name because Molly once said he liked to introduce himself with a handshake and a compliment, like he was a character in a TV show about ad execs. He wasn't just her colleague. He was her superior. And that opened a new door. See, Molly's agency had strict compliance policies. It was one of the few things she actually vented about. All the paperwork, the internal ethics committee, the conflict of interest training, she had to retake every quarter. Relationships within the org were technically allowed, but only if disclosed, especially when one person had authority over another's projects or salary, which Elijah did. So I gathered what I had. Screensh *TS of the hotel reservation under Molly's name, matching Elijah's check-in. Geolocation data from the Find My iPhone log, showing her at the Riverfront Hotel during supposed late work sessions. Taxi receipts to and from the same location. During hours she said she was at the gym or with friends. The rooftop kiss photo, time-stamped, fireworks still visible in the background. All of it. I didn't include a message. No angry note. No bitter accusations. Just the evidence. I used a private email, created a burner account, and sent the packet to the agency's internal compliance address. An anonymous tip, following their exact reporting protocol. I even attached a PDF of their own conflict policy, highlighting the relevant section. Send. That was it. No dramatic follow-up. No gleeful expectation. Just closure. I sat back in my chair, breathing slow, listening to the quiet of the apartment. No footsteps. No hairdryer running. No podcast echoing from the bathroom. Just the hum of the fridge and the faint sound of wind tapping the window. Felt like the first real silence I'd had in weeks. Later that afternoon, I wrote Molly a message. Not a novel. Not a threat. Just this. Your belongings are boxed in the guest room. Please coordinate a time to retrieve them. I've handled the lease paperwork and updated all shared accounts. Please don't come by unannounced. She didn't respond. Not that day. The next morning, I got a call from the property manager. The lease amendment had been signed by Molly. Electronically. No pushback. No fight. Just a silent acknowledgement. The silence spoke volumes. I spent the rest of the weekend doing something I hadn't done in a while. Taking care of myself. I bought groceries just for me. Rearranged the living room. Moved the photo albums into storage. Took down the painting she loved and replaced it with one I liked better. A small shift, but symbolic. Then I started sleeping in the middle of the bed again. At some point, I realized I hadn't cried. Not once. Not when I saw her kiss him. Not when I boxed her things. Not when I stared at the empty side of the couch where she used to curl up with tea and work drafts. But that didn't mean I wasn't grieving. It just meant I was healing differently this time. Quietly. Deliberately. On my terms. Molly's uncle, Thomas, heard about what happened. He respected how I handled it. Quiet, clean, no mess. He offered me a position managing part of his investment fund. I accepted. Started my own consulting firm, moved closer to the water, cut ties with her circle. My days filled with structure. Peace returned not overnight, but steadily. I wasn't just moving on. I was building something of my own. Her agency launched an audit. The man resigned. Molly quit. A courier brought my ring and the keys. I shipped her things to storage. Closed every account. Legally, emotionally done. Under fireworks, I lost a future. But in the silence that followed, I found something steadier. Myself.